Open that file now, I know what you did. The light from the laptop flickered across her clenched fingers, her tone was icy. You're lying and we both know it. The chair scraped as he half stood, eyes darting to the door. Sit down. She never raised her voice, but the threat was clear. Footsteps pounded on the old wood floor outside. You think you can just walk away? Her brother's voice shaking with something darker than fear. Everything you buried, we found it. His words hung in the charged air. The silence pressed thick as oil. Call your lawyer, go ahead, they'll want to see this too. A heavy exhale, edge of a curse, but the fight left his eyes. The laptop chimed as the evidence loaded on screen. You made this mess, now you get to watch it burn. The echo of her words filled the room just as the first siren wailed in the distance. But to understand how they reached this table, how justice turned sour and every secret surfaced, you'd have to go back 3 weeks earlier. The boxes tumbled from the backseat and onto the gravel, splitting open and spewing homework and crumpled takeout bags into the cold air. Miranda pressed her forehead to the car window, breath steaming the glass, knuckles tight on the steering wheel as her brother huffed outside. Nate kicked a t-shirt at the battered mailbox, no name on it anymore, just fading paint. This can't be real, you hear me? His boots scuffed the dirt, his tone equal parts pissed and numb. She unlocked her phone. Balance, $16 and nothing incoming. The email about her nursing license still glared from the screen. Suspension, debt unresolved, impossible hospital bills. Her badge, the one thing that gave her purpose, now locked away with the rest of her life. Nate slumped on the warped porch step, clutching their mom's folded obituary. She left us nothing, Mir, nothing but that orchard. Are you laughing yet? She gave him a weak smile, a habit formed from making small wounds smaller, and stared at the useless paperwork in her lap. Title transfer, settlement receipt. Deserted orchard, Sonoma County, like it's some golden ticket. Joke S on us. A gust rattled the boarded windows. One of the sheets, a notarized deed, fluttered across the bench and landed at her sneakers. Something about the embossed seal made her pause. Scribbled in unfamiliar ink across the bottom corner, shed, floor, cistern under foundation, trust Miranda. And a circled set of numbers, GPS. Her chest tightened. Nate, get over here, look at this. He squinted, voice low. Cistern, you think she buried a bottle or something? Only one way to find out. As dusk deepened, dread and thin hope layered between them. If you've ever watched a family door get slammed in your face and had to decide whether to walk away or dig up what got buried, keep listening. They made the plan over stale gas station coffee, Nate tapping the GPS coordinates into his phone. The route twisted from the town's motel, past carcasses of rusted-out tractors, towards the dying orchard choking the hillside. Each empty field mirrored the rot gnawing the edges of Miranda's resolve. She navigated potholes, dashboard flashing warnings. 3 weeks. That's all until the lienholders' foreclosure sealed their last tie to their mother's world. Flash of memory, her last hospital shift, head bowed in the storage closet, fighting panic attacks as fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. A supervisor's voice bristling with finality, you're suspended until debt is cleared. Policy's policy. She'd barely set down her stethoscope before the world tilted. Miranda blinked away the sting. See anything? Nate rolled down his window, pointing. There's the orchard. Can't believe people used to think this was paradise. Everything's dead. The orchard looked worse up close, gnarled limbs blackened by blight, fruit rotting in blankets beneath broken branches. A single warped shed jutted from a thicket of thistle. That's the place. Nate groaned. If a serial killer lives in there, I'm blaming you. They crunched through brittle leaves, every step releasing a ghost of sun-warmed apples. The shed's padlock surrendered with a twist from an old key Miranda found taped beneath the deed. Inside, dust motes rolled in sunbeams. The floorboards groaned as Nate circled the perimeter, flashlight trembling. Miranda knelt at a crooked plank. Scraping away dirt with her shoe, she found it, the faint outline of a hatch. He gagged on the dust. You really want to go down there? No one's coming to save us. Miranda jammed her fingers beneath the edge and pried. The wood resisted, then snap. The plank lifted, revealing blackness beneath. A cold draft rose from below. "After you," Nate muttered, only half joking. She lowered herself into the dark, boots striking something solid, a rickety ladder. One step. Another. Her pulse pounded, but the musty cold steadied her hands. The light from her phone illuminated cramped concrete walls. Slapped against one side, an old filing cabinet. Next to it, what looked like an ancient water valve crusted with lime. Nate's feet thudded behind, his breath caught. "Mere, look at this." He pointed, rough-hewn shelves stacked with glass jars, labels faded almost to nothing. Another wall, bundles wrapped in oilcloth, yellowed tags fluttering as she brushed past. She opened a cabinet. Inside, a leather-bound ledger, edges singed, and tucked beneath an envelope, sealed, her name on it. Her hands shook. "This is Mom's handwriting." Nate found a switch on the wall. Livid bulbs fizzed to life. The secret room bloomed in shadow and harsh light. She slid open the envelope, fingers leaving smudges on the paper. Her mother's script, sprawling but sure. "Miranda, I know you don't trust anyone now, least of all yourself. If you're reading this, they've either taken everything or you've lost it all. But look closer. The orchard doesn't die, it protects. What I hid here will keep you safe if you trust your eyes and not their lies. Don't let Charlotte take what's rightfully yours. Remember, the art is just the surface. What matters is below. And the water, guard it, it's life." A slip of Polaroids fell from the envelope. Snapshots of the orchard's roots and a faded painting hanging crooked in another room. Nate peered over her shoulder. "Charlotte, you think she..." Miranda slammed the letter onto the desk, fighting tears. She swore she wasn't after anything but keeping us safe. Turns out, she just wanted to make sure Mom's inventions never got out. He snorted, voice rising with outrage. "Her family's empire can't run on stolen formulas forever. We'll prove it." In the back corner, Miranda spun the water valve. A rattling sucked air through the walls. Moments later, clear water gushed from a battered spout. No smell, no aftertaste, just pure cold on her lips. Nate stared, mouth slack. That's worth a fortune." She nodded, determination hardening. "It's insurance, and it's ours now." Paint cans blocked something mosaic behind a tarp. When she pulled it free, 6 paintings stared back, signed in their mother's looping signature. Nate's jaw dropped. "Those were reported stolen last year." Charlotte cried for days. She stared at the ledger, then the maze of plumbing. Secrets multiplied faster than her fear. A heavy thump from above snapped their focus. Footsteps, the hatch groaned. They froze. Someone else wanted what was hidden here. Miranda waited until the steps faded, heart hammering. Then she stuffed the ledger, photos, and one painting into her backpack. "We have to go," she whispered. "Now." She climbed out first, crouching low. No one in the orchard, just wind and the yowl of distant coyotes. At the car, they dumped their haul. Nate was white-knuckled. "You think she came back, think Charlotte found us." Miranda bit back panic. "If she didn't before, she will now. We have evidence. Time to show someone who can do something about it." Back in town, Nate scrolled through his social networks, hunting for an ally. Remember Maggie from Dad's old union? She knows people in state real estate fraud. Miranda gulped lukewarm coffee, shoving trembling hands beneath her thighs. "Call her. We've got 3 weeks until foreclosure, that's all." Ally's number on speaker, phone on the cluttered motel table. Maggie's voice raspy, brisk, skeptical. "You're Miranda, Laura's daughter, explain fast." Miranda swallowed. "We found a secret basement. Water source your people need, and art Charlotte claimed was stolen for insurance payouts." Static crackled. "You saying you found both? That kind of evidence brings state-level heat. It could bury her whole circle, or you send me everything." Nate's voice trembled. "The lienholder clocks out this place in 3 weeks. Will you help us stop her?" Silence. Then, "If your claim's real, I'll make calls, but if you're bluffing, you're on your own. Tick-tock." She hung up. Miranda exhaled, chest buzzing with a hope she barely recognized. Nate cut in, what if Maggie double-crosses us, or Charlotte pays her off? Miranda shook her head, fingers on the envelope's wax seal. If we don't gamble, we lose everything. Stay sharp. As night closed, the orchard looked less like a ruin and more like a camp primed for siege. Flashing blue from patrols, parked trucks with unfamiliar faces. Maggie's message pinged at 2 a.m., need the full ledger and proof of art. By tomorrow, meet downtown, time's running out, kids. In the courthouse parking lot under pearl gray sunrise, Maggie leaned on her dented Subaru, eyes bloodshot but laser clear. Open the bag, she said, staring at Nate. He hesitated, chin jutting with a stubbornness he wore like armor. How do we know you're not with them? His hiss was edged with accusation. Maggie pulled her union card. See this? I lost a cousin to their games. I want them down more than you do, but I need evidence, not stories. Miranda dumped the ledger and Polaroids onto Maggie's lap. Our mother trusted you once. Don't waste it. Maggie turned pages, whistling under her breath. That water rights journal, if true, makes you the most valuable squatters in Sonoma. And these art receipts? Charlotte insured these for $4 million. How'd she not notice them for a year? Miranda shrugged, voice flickering between hope and exhaustion. She reported them stolen, claimed thieves, but no forced entry, only family knew where to look. Maggie's gaze sharpened. That kind of fraud is felony, not just her, whole board implicated if they paid out. Nate pressed, so you'll stop the foreclosure. Slow it, but Charlotte will come hard for you both now. Expect lawsuits, threats, maybe a little private security coming around. Document everything. If you have anything else, dump it now. Maggie scribbled a number on a business card. Wear a body cam next time and lock your doors. The deadline ticker blared louder. 3 weeks left and Charlotte's shadow everywhere. Miranda watched her brother pace by the window that night. You okay? He shook his head. You think we have enough? What if she takes us down before we can finish this? She thumbed the letter, anger mounting. It's about time someone did. We fight back, Nate, or we disappear forever. The threats came by morning, anonymous letters, an SUV idling too long across the street. Miranda's phone pinged from a new number, come to the orchard, leave what you found, or lose more. She showed Nate, his face pale then hardened. So that's her play, she's desperate. Miranda loaded the journal into her jacket. We go, just not blind. They returned to the orchard, not to the shed but to the fence line, waiting under dead branches. A sedan approached. Charlotte stepped out in tailored wool, eyes hidden by dark glasses. 2 men trailed, angular and watchful. Stay behind me, Miranda instructed. Charlotte's voice clipped and condescending. You've made quite the mess, Miranda. Insurance fraud, defamation, that's jail time. Miranda didn't flinch. Funny, we found what you lost, those paintings, and Mom's recipes, or would you rather call them stolen IP? Charlotte winced. That paperwork means nothing. The insurance investigators sided with me. Drop it. Nate stepped forward. It's our families, you can't erase Mom. Charlotte's voice cracked just for a second, then morphed cold again. You children were always naive. You think that water matters. It's a dry well. I made sure of it years ago. Miranda's mind raced. Except the city tested it last month. Purity unmatched, potential market value, 7 figures. You never wanted this discovered. It would tank your bottled water line. Charlotte spat. Laura's formulas were dangerous. FDA never signed off. If the old journals leak, my investors will crucify us all. Miranda's voice went low, steely. Not us, just you. A glance exchanged between the men. Nate whispered, her goons are nervous. That's leverage. Charlotte snapped, you'll lose this orchard. Foreclosure is days away. No one will believe street kids like you. Miranda showed the ledger to a camera in her sleeve. Smile, every word's evidence now. One of the men shifted, uncertain. The power dynamic flickered. You are in way over your head, Miranda, Charlotte warned. So pull me out, Miranda shot back, legally. Charlotte cursed, then retreated. That night Maggie called, hissing, urgent. Charlotte started flipping her own board, blaming her husband, the CEO. He's flipping on her too. State investigators think your evidence triggered a feeding frenzy. Nate blinked. That means what? We're safe. Just stay quiet, Maggie barked. Evidence is moving faster than bribes. Don't talk to anyone but me. Miranda hung up, hands trembling, hope and dread balanced on a knife's edge. We're in the middle of a war, she whispered to Nate, but at least we set the terms. For 72 hours, they scanned, uploaded, and documented every scrap. The story broke on local news. Nate watched, wide-eyed, as Charlotte's arrest paraded across the evening broadcast. Her husband in handcuffs, executives squabbling, leaks pouring in. Miranda queued up the latest court order, foreclosure paused, investigation ongoing. Almost there, Nate muttered, but someone's always left holding the bag. Miranda nodded. If Mom knew it would come to this. He cut her off. She did, she knew. The day of reckoning hit like a landslide. Emails to state authorities, private recordings, Maggie's union on standby. Miranda stared at one last encrypted folder. She pressed send. A meeting was set. They walked into an office, not the courthouse, but the boardroom Maggie commandeered after officers swept through, documents stacked high. Charlotte pale, furious, disheveled, cuffed but standing, a half-circle of attorneys around her, all pretending innocence. Miranda's grip tightened on the laptop as she plugged it in. The air was thick with anxiety and concealed contempt. Charlotte sneered, "You want to destroy my entire family business, for what? Some moldy paintings and gutter water." Miranda set her feet, pressing play. The ledger appeared on-screen, scanned pages crowding the desktop. Financial transactions, insurance claim records, handwritten notes, Charlotte's signature. Her voice clear, "You filed these yourself, right? Got the payout, hid the art, hid the water tests. Guess what? Audit trails don't care about your investment fund." Charlotte turned to her attorney. "We deny everything, it's all fabricated." Maggie, arms folded, injected. "You want to take that to trial? We've got 20 witnesses, water samples from the shed, and insurance records with your fingerprints." An executive, Charlotte's chief fixer, turned ghostly. "Charlotte told us it was all lost, Maggie. None of us saw those." "Shut up," Charlotte snapped, desperation creeping into her tone. "They're manipulating you." Miranda clicked open the next folder, photos of the art, time-stamped. "How much did the insurance company pay for these?" $4.2 million. The fixer's hands trembled. "If they find out I knew, I go down too." Charlotte spat, "You dirty traitor." He glared back, "You dragged us all in." Maggie's eyes flickered to Miranda. "Finish it." Miranda stood, voice steady. "We found the art, Charlotte. We traced the water. We recorded the threats. You left a trail. I know what you did." Charlotte snarled, "You're lying and we both know it." A chair scraped as the fixer tried to bolt for the door. Miranda's voice never rose, but she pointed. "Sit down." Footsteps hurried across the wood. Nate's voice, shaking but strong. "You think you can just walk away? Everything you buried, we found it." A silence thick and unyielding. "Call your lawyer," Miranda said softly, laptop flashing. "Go ahead, they'll want to see this too." Charlotte's shoulders slumped as the laptop loaded the evidence. "You made this mess," Miranda whispered, vision blurry but voice glass-sharp. "Now you get to watch it burn." Police entered, radios crackling. Executives pointed fingers, the fixer spewing names, playing for mercy. Charlotte was finally mute, crushed by the reality on screen. Outside, news crews snapped photos as the once invincible matriarch was led away. Miranda met her eyes through the glass. This time, she didn't look away. Maggie appeared, breathless. "They're all turning on each other, wants to shave their jail time, ratting out every dirty trick. Hell of a story, Miranda." Miranda just stared, the notebook cool in her hand. She felt lighter, yes, but more than that, settled. In the end, she told Nate as they left, they took each other down. He grinned, unburdened for the first time in years. Guess that's what happens when you corner desperate people with nothing left to lose. By the time foreclosure expired, the orchard was theirs alone. Maggie's team filed suits to recover the money. Prosecutors moved ahead on insurance fraud, water permit violations, and more. Charlotte and her cohort would be in legal hell for years. The community, once scornful, now buzzed with apology and awe. 3 months later, Miranda and Nate built a hidden cottage inside the trunk of the largest ancient tree, camouflaged but bright with promise. The orchard, built as an eco-retreat, attracted visitors, its mended groves watered by the purest spring on record. Income stabilized. For the first time, Miranda slept without fear. The people who tried to erase them were busy erasing each other instead. Sometimes the hardest roots to dig up are the ones clinging to lies, the ones that choke out growth until there's nothing left but new shoots breaking the surface. If you've ever had to fight for proof that the home you lost was always meant to be yours, remember, what gets buried out of fear comes up stronger in the sun. And every broken branch, every faded signature, only means the next chapter is finally yours to write. When Miranda closed her eyes that night, the wind threaded through the half-mended orchard, cool and alive. She lay beneath the patchwork ceiling, stars winking through the skylight. Nate hammered into the repurposed treehouse wall. The oxygen was sweet, crisp with apple buds and new grass. But it was more than air, it was an unbroken circle, a return to something older and quieter. Justice moving not as vengeance, but as restoration. The weeks after the trial passed like the slow unfurling of spring itself. Boxes unpacked, rooms reclaimed from dust and memory. Reporters still called sometimes, asking for comment or background or a pull quote about integrity or family inheritance. Most days, Miranda let their voicemails pile up. Let Charlotte, from her holding cell, stew in the silence she'd made for herself. But not everything faded so easily. Nate dragged paint buckets and forgotten hardware out to the shed. He found himself tracing fingerprints in the old ledger, curious about the formula for purifying the water, the buried notes their mother had coded into the margins. Sometimes he'd laugh to himself, a little darker and a little wiser, thinking about just how close they'd come to losing it all, the orchard, the well, each other. Then there were the visitors. Word spread faster than roots in muddy spring. Old Union folks people Maggie vouched for stopped by on Saturdays, lugging thermoses and jars. One had been their mother's friend at the cannery. Another remembered Miranda as a girl, all knees and pigtails, getting muddy between the trees. They called the water miracle clear, and Miranda saw dollar signs stacking behind their eyes. But whenever she caught her reflection in the window, she tried to remember the warning in her mother's letter. The orchard protects. Guard the water. Not everyone means well. A rusted pickup rolled up late one afternoon. Maggie clambered out, scowling at the condition of the driveway. "You two ever hear of regrading?" she barked, but her eyes creased with pride as she surveyed the land, her conviction as fierce as ever. "Got your new contracts," she said, tossing a battered envelope onto the kitchen table. "County's convinced. You're officially the legal heirs, and a handful of developers wanted to buy you out, offering 6 figures. Thought you'd want to laugh at the letters before I send them to the shredder." Nate snorted, hacking at a weed with his boot. They just build condos or a tasting room for tourists. Miranda lifted a brow, her voice mellow but edged. "We're not moving, not now." Maggie nodded, smart. She scanned the orchard, voice lowering. "You get any more pushback, Charlotte's crew?" Some old board members sniffed around last week. Miranda shivered, recalling the sleek sedan that paused on the county road, the lenses glinting through the dust. Maggie stabbed a thumb back at her truck. "Any trouble, you call me. Unions got your back and keep the water rights tight. The state agencies are still sniffing for a loophole." To her own surprise, Miranda grinned. "Thanks, Maggie, for everything." Maggie shrugged, but her pride was transparent as glass. "You two saw it through, not many would've." Nate waited until Maggie's taillights vanished before he asked, "Do you think she's okay? Charlotte, I mean. Prison's no joke even for her. Miranda weighed her answer. She made her choices, all power, no mercy. Maybe she finally learns what it's like to have to start over. She ran her hand along the ledge, rough and splintered, feeling the old grain, the muscle of it. I hope she remembers what it's like to be scared, to need a second chance. They spent that week fixing window panes, replanting saplings, splitting firewood from the limbs lost in last year's storm. Every task felt weighted with purpose. Nate called it ownership therapy. He started keeping a trail camera at the shed, just in case. Miranda learned to trust the quiet again, learned to enjoy the warm ache in her forearms after hours spent turning soil. At dusk over cold cider, they unspooled old memories. "Remember that summer Dad tried to build a tree swing?" Nate asked, feet propped on an overturned crate. "He drilled a hole right through his boot." Miranda laughed, first deep and true in years. He never let on he was in pain, just kept working until Mom dragged him inside. Silence lapped at the edges for a minute. Then Nate nudged, "You ever think she knew all along how dirty that board was, that her partners were selling out underneath her?" Miranda considered. "I think she was scared, but she trusted us to find the truth. She left the clues because she believed we'd finish what she started." "I still get mad at her sometimes," Nate confessed, voice low, "for leaving so many secrets, for making us fight for every answer." Miranda set her cider down, gentle as a prayer. "Secrets are heavy, Nate. If she'd told us, maybe she would have put a target on our backs sooner." Nate scraped mud off his boot sole. "Guess we all buried things to survive." They fell into a kind of routine. Daylight filled with chores and orchard tending, calls with lawyers about the ongoing civil cases. Charlotte's insurance payout was being clawed back. The lawyers said, slow work but sure. Evenings spent hunched over ledgers and blueprints, shoring up their claim to the water rights. Twice, county inspectors hiked out to check on the well. They ran tests. They filled out forms and muttered about modernization. But when Miranda handed them the bottles their mother had secreted away, containing water from the deepest cistern, they could only shake their heads, astonished. "No contaminants, no trace of the usual metals. This is a gold mine if you manage it right," one said, eyeing the pump house. "You keep it safe, too many folks will want a piece." Inside, Miranda found herself memorizing the clatter of rain on the tin roof, the weight of the painting her mother had left, the one of the young orchard, before blight, before secrets. The colors thrummed. Beneath it, she left the ledgers, sometimes catching a scent of apple and dust that brought tears for no reason she could name. One morning, as the fog burned off, a battered sedan crept up the drive. Men in suits, state officials, Miranda guessed, filed out, briefcases gripped like shields. One woman introduced herself as Miss CEO, lead investigator for the state fraud office. Miss CEO shook Miranda's hand firmly. "We're finalizing the prosecution, but I wanted to thank you in person. Most whistleblowers don't come out the other side, fewer still keep their homes." Miranda hid her skepticism. "Didn't feel like a choice. Charlotte would have burned us to the ground if we hadn't." Miss CEO smiled faintly. "You saved more than just your home. The new water rights guidelines will benefit everyone on this end of the valley. You'll be credited in the report." Miranda shrugged off the acknowledgement out of habit, but Nate stepped forward, pride unguarded. "Our mother did the work, we just followed the trail." "That's what matters," Miss CEO said. She scribbled notes, then looked up. "One last question, do you intend to bottle and sell, or?" Miranda glanced at Nate, he nodded. "We're exploring partnerships, small scale, locals first. If Mom taught us anything, it's not to let outsiders dictate the story." Miss CEO's smile grew. "Good answer, be careful though, prosperity draws all kinds." As they watched the officials go, Nate grinned. "Did you ever imagine we'd run an orchard and a spring? I couldn't keep a cactus alive last year." Miranda looped her arm through his. "We'll learn or fail or both." Nights returned, bringing sleep sometimes, more often a strange wakefulness. A sense of life lived not in the rush but in the recovery. Miranda caught herself humming as she washed old glass jars, layering cut flowers in the window. She spent quiet evenings answering emails from local activists, some offering help, some seeking the water formula for their own dying orchards. She demurred. Protect the water, her mother's words echoed, not out of selfishness, but care. The old fear never vanished entirely, but it changed. Instead of panic, it became vigilance. Doors locked, records backed up in the cloud. Nate called it adulting too. Sometimes rare but electric, Maggie called late, voice rough with satisfaction. Charlotte turned state's evidence. She announced one twilight, gravel in her tone. She'll probably get 5 instead of 20, but she's naming every dirty name, every water baron in 3 counties. You two lit a fire that's not going out soon. Miranda felt both triumphant and wary. So when do we stop watching our backs? There was a pause, then Maggie chuckled. Probably never, but you'll get good at it. A lull fell over the orchard, frenetic days replaced by a rebuilding calm, but life found a way back in. Families from the valley came by, baskets in hand, eager to work the land for a share of the crop. This truly felt new. People who'd once tried to buy them out now rolling up sleeves, earning sweat equity on land once poisoned by suspicion. Miranda began to smile when people laughed under her roof. She saw their faces reflected in the shed's window, faces that looked tired but open now. Nate took pride in showing children the battered old cistern, explaining how water traveled, how it was filtered, teaching about stewardship as much as survival. One Friday close to midsummer, Nate burst into the cottage, face lit up with the same impulsive hope that had always gotten him in trouble. "You need to see this," he called. Miranda wiped her hands, following him out to the shed. He pointed excitedly at a new bloom, a row of saplings by the fence, wild apple seedlings that had somehow taken root where the land had been churned up for the search. "I thought we cleared all this after the blight," she said softly. Nate shook his head, eyes full of wonder. "Nah, some seeds survive. Maybe Mom knew they would." She nodded, voice thick. "I think that's the lesson, isn't it?" The orchard was no longer a place of lost things, but a place waiting for the next story. It hummed with possibility and the stubborn hope inherited from their mother, echoing in green leaves and clear water. That night at the edge of the property, Miranda spotted a lone figure by the fence line. For a heartbeat, dread jolted through her. Charlotte, a new threat. She crept closer, heart pounding, but saw it was an older man, suit fraying at the cuffs, eyes lost in the shadows. When he noticed her, he straightened, shame written deep in his posture. "Can I help you?" she asked, voice steady. He cleared his throat. "I worked for your aunt once." He ducked his head. "I was the one who sent those men out after the first hearing. They fired me when I wouldn't lie for them." Miranda's hands flexed at her sides. "Why are you here?" He handed her a manila envelope thick with documents. "For closure, I suppose, to apologize, and to warn you there will always be someone circling. Guard what's yours." He looked her dead in the eye. "But also, don't let the secrets eat you. Build something better." Miranda accepted the envelope. "We plan to." He nodded, vanished into the dusk. Back in the kitchen, Nate hovered. "What was that about?" She set the envelope on the table, turning it over until she saw the contents. Maps, authentication documents, notes Charlotte had kept on every move their mother made in her last years. Evidence for future trials, perhaps, or simply a final reckoning. "We keep the cycle broken," she said, resolve settling in her chest like new soil. "No more secrets." Nate grinned. "Maybe tell the truth even when it's ugly." "Especially then," Miranda replied, smiling. By fall, the orchard was buzzing, a dozen volunteers, grants arriving, and Miranda's debt vanishing piece by piece. She reapplied for her nursing license, smiling softly at the letter that arrived. Reinstated, good standing. Nate called her from the edge of the well as the leaves flickered yellow and gold. "You think Mom would recognize this place now?" Miranda wrapped an arm around his shoulders. "I think she'd be proud." One evening, Maggie arrived for dinner, her first time sharing a table since the trial ended. She toasted with backyard cider, voice as rough as always. You did more than win, kids. You turned it around, made something worth passing on. They ate well that night, home cooking and laughter bouncing among solid walls and warm light. After dessert, the conversation turned to the future. You ever think about expanding? Maggie asked. There's a waiting list for the water already, could help other families dig new wells, teach what you've learned. Nate leaned in, ideas sparking. A cooperative. Miranda looked around at the weathered kitchen, the ledger open to a new blank page. Let's try it, we owe it forward. And so it began again, a new risk, but not one born of desperation or survival, but of hope. They drew up plans. They called neighbors. Miranda wrote grants and letters and gave advice to anyone who asked, passing along every lesson of resilience hidden in those roots. On the first anniversary of reclaiming the orchard, they planted a new tree, just a sapling but with room around it to grow. They buried the last of the old secrets beneath its roots, clippings from court cases, false claims, Charlotte's last unsigned letter. They did it not to erase, but to give the past a softer place to rest. Standing together in the morning sun, hands dirty and faces shining, Nate asked, "Now what?" Miranda squeezed his hand and watched the wind ripple through the leaves. Now we live, not just survive, live. If you ever walk through Sonoma and glimpse an old orchard trembling with new green, know the work beneath the surface of forgiveness, vigilance, and starting again. Know that it began with secrets and ended with truth, that what's buried, given time and light, always finds its way to the surface. And if one day you taste the cold, clear water handed to you by Miranda or Nate, you'll know exactly what was paid to make it possible, and just how sweet, after all, justice can be.